Again.
So Colin K, huh?
Yep.
Back in the news again.
Yep. Apparently he's getting a Netflix miniseries, documentary, biopic, something of that other production.
That's a big production name right there.
Yeah. It's a miniseries, so.
It is?
I think so.
Multiple episodes.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's a 6-parter.
Yeah. Goodness. Okay.
Well, I guess just going back a little bit on the history of Colin Kaepernick and just some of the thoughts that you had, I guess obviously he took a knee and to protest police brutality and things like that back in 2016 season of the NFL, and obviously he got a lot of backlash and things like that because people thought he was being disrespectful for the flag and the anthem and things like that. But I guess having been about 5 years now, what are your thoughts on not necessarily his actions but the consequences of them, and what have been the ramifications of it?
Well, things have changed. I mean, things are changing. That's for sure. I wasn't a big fan when it happened initially. Honestly, it's not that I even thought real deeply about it. I was like, what a dick. That's what I was saying initially.
How so?
I was just thinking to myself, we're singing the anthem for soldiers who have died defending the country, and you're sitting there taking a knee, making your millions of dollars.
Well, initially he did sit during the preseason.
Yeah, he sat and then he took the knee. Yeah, I get it. But it's just not thinking a whole lot about it. It just hit me wrong. I was like, what's he got against America and their soldiers and
the flag,
right? Yeah. It's like that. That's the kind of thing. Whereas and I've seen some of his comments. Some of his comments seemed like they were well put together. This wasn't against the soldiers. This wasn't against the military. It wasn't against whatever. But it was just to protest police brutality. And he formed some of those arguments. They were
coaching arguments.
I guess I see it, and there are worse ways to protest. I guess I'm not a huge fan of it, but there are worse things.
Yeah, I think at the time your words were that he was kind of the wrong messenger for that kind of movement. Kind of so, yeah. Because he's a wealthy, individual. Obviously he is black, but he's half black and he grew up in a white family,
right?
And he's obviously wealthy now.
And then he chose to do it when he wasn't playing anymore.
Yeah.
And then
I think he started. Didn't he start? I think he started in the preseason, but he got benched partway.
Yeah,
through
I remember.
Yeah.
But then things hit me off he was wearing was it a Che Guevara shirt or a hat or something?
I think it was that shirt.
And I was like, do you know anything about Che Guevara? You don't know anything. If you're talking to me about social justice and you're wearing a Che Guevara shirt, dude, get the F out of here. You know what I'm saying? You obviously have no clue what you're talking about.
Why doesn't he have a clue, Ricky?
Don't get me started, man. I used to think it was cool. I used to think Che Guevara was cool too when I was 16 and I didn't know anything about anything.
Well, and he was a doctor, so.
Yeah, and he also killed gay people and minorities.
Yeah.
It's cool. It was awesome. Yeah. Just shoot women in the back of the head, just dump them in pits. That was awesome.
Yeah, pregnant women.
It was really, just out there for the man, But yeah. Don't get me started on that stuff, man. Yeah. You got me all riled up now. I'm trying to
I'm
pull
hot,
myself down. I'm sweating.
Yeah.
No, so that was the thing. Is okay, you don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
But,
and some people can make the argument that one person's terrorist is another person's revolutionary.
You can argue anything you want to argue. It's just wrong. But so at the end of the day, I liked it better than the country being burned down for a year. I liked it better than that.
Literally every night during the summer.
Yeah, every night, just billions of dollars being destroyed and people being hurt and killed and stuff. I liked it better than that stuff. Yeah, for sure. All the looting and crap like that.
Our country
being
our country disintegrating socially.
Yeah,
into madness.
I was down for kneeling after that.
Kneeling's better than
Kneeling's better than that. But it's definitely possible that kind of struck a chord and got things moving.
Yeah. Well, and I think to your point is that the message was right. Police brutality is a problem, but I think it's just having it come from someone who particularly wasn't that much subject to it as an adult, and who is now wealthy and plays in a very, insular sport of football.
You're like,
in
has
the
life
NFL,
really been that bad to you? You know.
Like, yeah, obviously growing up without not your real parents, and obviously going to a place where you might experience racism, but I believe that once you become an adult, and he was living in Oakland at the time, so it's like, are you really that socially isolated and face that much kind of like racism and discrimination if you're living in
I didn't
Oakland?
know you grew up in Oakland. Yeah.
No, he didn't grow up in Oakland. He lived in Oakland, like while he played for the Niners.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird because at that time the Oakland Raiders were still in Oakland, so it was kind of weird having like the opposing team player live in like your city.
This goes to a greater topic of just where the country's at, like the 1619 Project, and basically just groups
being woke.
It's groups and organizations trying to change the way we view history.
Yeah.
And at one point of me, like, one part of me sees it, and one part of me is like, you guys are taking it way too far. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, as Americans, we pride ourselves on unity, on coming together, on a huge variety of cultures coming together as one.
Well, I don't think necessarily unity, but I think that the fact that we have a common American ethos, like a shared principles of values, of democratic values, of like fairness, of freedom, prosperity, sort of being a market economy, not necessarily free market, but a market economy of saying, hey, I have a good or service, and the free exchange of that good or service.
Yeah, but and freedom being the basis of all that, right? And so that's what we believe as Americans. Yeah. And so we think back.
Like equality, things like that.
Yeah. And so
people
obviously,
should be treated the same, regardless of their race.
Their point their point is trying to come across saying we're not focused enough on our faults, and it's like, so they're focusing on faults that America has been diseased since the beginning due to slavery being here since 1619, and even saying like we were fighting the British, like in the Revolutionary War, we were fighting the British to protect our right for slavery. Mm-hmm. When it was like the British had slavery at the same time, so it was like, I don't know. And supposedly in none of the writings by any of the founding fathers that was never mentioned. There was there's been no records of any communication that was a reason for the Revolutionary War. So to come out and say that by the freaking, what's her name?
Was it
Nicole something?
Noel Hannah Jones.
Yeah, who wrote the thing? Yeah. The essay. It's like, come on.
I think the issue is, and I think this is what they're essentially pointing to, is that a lot of the founding documents of the United States are hypocritical, and being objective to that, you have to say that in most part that is true, because when you say all men are created equal except Indians, black people, foreigners, women, like, yes, that it, like people who didn't have land, yes, that is very hypocritical.
But it doesn't make it untrue. That's the thing. It's like,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, the whole purpose of this American experiment is to make that more true. Is to form a more perfect union. Like,
for sure.
That's the whole purpose of those founding documents. Because look at the United States. Like, people forget the United States. Even after the revolution, we still weren't one country. We were 12 or 13 states that decided, hey, like we're free from the British now, and it literally was states that were going to like Pennsylvania was going to war with, Virginia and
it was a rocky beginning.
Yeah, it was a rocky beginning.
And when we had issues with Mexico,
we had three national capitals before we finally got it all settled down with the Constitution.
Well, building a country isn't easy, Brian.
Hey.
We got lots of things that got things to work out.
Ricky, haven't you heard Rome was built in a day?
I've heard it.
Okay.
Yeah, never.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It turned out very well for them.
Okay. Yeah, man. So it's just weird. It's like disappointing because
it's revising our history. It's not truthful, and I don't think it's very sincere to say that America was built on these false principles of exploiting indigenous and enslaved people for the purposes of capitalism and to enrich a small elite class of white land-owning men.
I think it's possible to teach history as, hey, these principles were good. We acknowledge the things that we fell short in, obviously, but we acknowledge also the way we've come till now, how many steps we've made to where we are today. That's of note.
And also you got to look at it in the course of American history, like America's history in the course of global and world history. We are a very young country. Yes, we have made a lot of mistakes, but when compared those mistakes to other countries that have been around much longer than the United States, the criticism is valid, but it should be shared against great. Like, look at Britain. Britain said that the greatness of the British Empire is the ideals and principles of free market economy and liberalism. Well, that was not the case in India or South Africa or Nigeria or South America when they conquered and colonized all those places. Even in the Middle East.